Continue.
I'm gonna put myself stop video and mute.
I'm going to mute myself. Now, Robin, I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. Oh, here come people. Everyone, you can turn on your videos. You can turn on your video cameras if you like, although you don't have to if you don't want to. So we're expecting a lot of people. Not everybody is here yet. So maybe would people like to unmute themselves and just say hello?
Hi, everybody. My name's Lori.
Hi, I'm Victoria.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, I'm Jennifer.
That's it. No. Wait. I don't want to say.
You don't have to if you don't want to. That's okay.
Hi. We have volume now. We figured it out.
Hello.
So what I'm going to do is ask everybody to, you can keep your videos on if you want them on, or turn them off if you want them off. Up to you. I'll ask everybody to put yourself on mute unless you have a question, and then just put up your hand and turn off the mute, because I might not see the hand right away, and say, hello, this is name, and I have a question. And I may have to repeat this if more people come in. Yeah, hi, I'm Robin. We are going to be making sock puppet dragons. With wings, or ears, or horns, or tongues, or nostrils, or eyes. And I'm saying or because everybody's dragon will be different, and you don't have to do everything that I'm going to show you. In this workshop, I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different things that you can try with different materials, and then you can choose either what you happen to have available, or what you want to, like, you can make more dragons later and say, oh, I didn't have pipe cleaners today, but maybe I'll get some next time I'm at a place that sells pipe cleaners, dollar store. You know, or you might have materials that I don't have, and you may be inspired to figure out ways to put that onto your dragon. It's all good. How this is going to work is I'm going to be live during the whole video, but I'm also going to play segments of during the whole Zoom call. I'm going to be live during the whole Zoom call, and I'm going to play segments of a video that I made. It's actually the video that I made making this very dragon here. So you will see her creation in the video. And how I'm going to do this, because we have a lot of time. We have enough time that we should be able to finish a dragon, but my video is only 45 minutes long, and a lot of it is just me talking, and we're not really working very much on things in the video, because it's one of those things where I'll say it, and then I'll show it, and then we do it. So what I thought was, what we're going to do, I will say things here, I will play the video, and then I will pause the video occasionally, and I can go over what we just said in the video, and you can do that if you want to do that. And there's one part where there's two different choices you can make. The first choice is the easier dragon mouth. The second choice is, she's actually a little fancier, where there's a bit more sewing. You could also glue this. I'll stop the video at that point, and then anybody who wants to do the easier dragon can get started a little sooner, and anybody who wants to do the slightly fancier dragon will want to wait a bit, and I'll play the video further. Hopefully that has made sense. Oh, if things make sense, can you give me thumbs up? Super. If, like I said, if anyone has a question, just put your hand up and unmute yourself and say your name and just say, I have a question, and then we'll go from there. If anyone has, oh, yes?
I wasn't sure when it's okay to ask a question. I'm Frigel. I was just wondering if we'll get the recording after, so like.
Oh, there is going to be a recording. I believe the recording is being mainly made for promotional purposes. The video that I'm going to play, the 45-minute video that I'm going to play is available on YouTube. So that will be available. I don't know if this whole thing of all of us doing this together, I'm not really sure what amount of that will be available, but I do want to do some promotional stuff. At the end of the session, I want everybody to hold up their dragons, and I want to take a picture of that. In the middle of the session, we're going to have a 5-minute break. So at about 5 o'clock, we're going to have a 5-minute break so that everybody can get their beverages and run up to the washroom and jump up and down and shake all your limbs and whatever we need to do. I will definitely need more tea. So we'll have a break at the 5 o'clock mark, and then we'll have a wind down at the end, and we'll get a picture of all the dragons. Which, no obligation to have them finished by then. We'll get a picture of whatever is finished. Also, some people might finish before the end, and if you're able to stay till the end so that we can get that picture, that I'd be grateful. You are welcome to, if you need to leave earlier, leave earlier. All right, so I have a couple questions to start with. Who has used hot glue before? Just put up your hand if you are experienced with hot glue. And who has done sewing before? Put up your other hand if you have done sewing before. And maybe put up both hands if you've done both. And no hands if you've done none. That's okay. I'm going to reveal to everybody, Patty is my mother. She can get special tips from me later. So anyway, and Pamela is my aunt, who is on Lynn's page. So let's see. Okay. If you are going to be hot gluing, now is the time to plug in your hot glue. You can sew or glue or do both in this project. I will give instructions for both hot gluing and sewing at times. I'm showing off. I've got my hot glue. I actually keep it in a can because the little stand for it is broken. So there's a little tip. The can has rocks in the bottom, so it's not tippy. It's very stable. And then I just stick my glue in there. And then I'm going to show you my workspace. I have on my desk, that's a bit of cereal cardboard box, and it's actually taped down. And that way I can put my hot glue right on the surface, and I'm not getting glue on anything, and I know that it's safely away from me and I'm not going to burn myself. So anybody hot gluing, make sure that you have a safe place for your hot glue gun, and now is the time to plug it in. Anybody who's sewing, make sure that you have something to put your sewing needle into. I am going to be using a great big embroidery needle so that everybody can see it. If you want to use an embroidery needle, they're great, but I do recommend get a sharp one. You're actually better off having a sharp tool because then it doesn't bounce on anything or do anything unexpected. A sharp tool will do exactly what you want it to do. So this is true of any tool that has any kind of a point. And make sure you've got like a pin cushion, or I'm using a cork. So for those of you who like wine, I know there's a couple wine people in here, a cork is an excellent place to keep your sewing needle. Materials. Okay, I was going to go over materials. You know what? The video is going to do materials. So let's let the video do this. hopefully this works. It's a bit of an experiment. I'm going to let it play, and then I'm going to stop it at some point. Now I have to figure out how to share my screen. Did anybody have any questions at this point? Yes. Okay, so Mum, you have to unmute yourself. How do you unmute yourself? Oh, down in the corner of the screen. I don't know which corner I'm pointing to, but it'll be the left-hand corner of your screen. There's a little picture of a microphone and a little picture of a video
Found
camera.
it. Thank you. That was my
that the
question.
Super. Okay, I'm going to play the video now, and if nobody hears sound, please somebody let me know right away. Oh, not that one. That one. The video will be jumpy. I apologize for that. It's a lot of cuts, a lot of edits. And the PDF is the information that you already had signed
Hello,
up.
and welcome to the Sock Puppet Dragon Workshop. We are going to be taking a sock and turning them into dragons. My name is Robin. I am a puppeteer and puppet builder, and I do a lot of work with socks. The reason I've chosen dragons is because there's no wrong way to do a dragon. You can do whatever you like, and no one can tell you that's not what a dragon looks like. You can say, have you seen one? There's one right there. This workshop is going to be about 45 minutes long. Do not feel obligated to finish your puppet in that time. A puppet will take as long as it takes, and some will be very fast to make, and some will take more time because you're going to want to do fancier, more detail, get really in there, and it's all good. Right, so hopefully you've already seen my PDF and you've got some tools and materials that you want to play with, and we're going to do this together.
Pausing right there. By PDF, that's the information that would have been on the Eventbrite page, and that's the information that would have been if you saw the Facebook page. That's that information.
We are going to make sock dragons, so you will need a sock and some ideas, some imagination, some creativity. I am going to show a variety of materials that you can use, and I'm going to show a variety of tools that you can use. You don't have to use the materials that I am showing. You don't have to use the tools that I am using. These are recommendations. I'm going to be doing a mix of sewing and gluing. I'm going to be using an embroidery needle for the sewing, and I'm actually going to use yarn as my thread, because then you will be able to see what I am doing as I am doing it. This is an important point right there. It is sharp. Make sure that you have a pin cushion, or sometimes I will use a cork to put my needle in. This way I do not lose my needle when I am not using it. Here are some of the materials you could use: beads, pom-poms, pipe cleaners, sparkly beads, wooden beads, buttons, yarn, felt, fabric, fun foam, paper, filing folders. These are great. Many different things that you can do with all the materials, and I will show a variety of examples of puppets I have made and examples on the puppet I'm about to make. Here are some of the tools that I have: scissors, pen or marker, needle nose pliers, very good for little detail things. And I'm going to use my hot glue gun. Glue gun safety. Small people, make sure you have a big person helping you with anything that is pointy or hot. Always be safe. Do not stab yourself, do not burn yourself. Right, here is the sock that I am going to be using for my sock puppet. Oh, look, it's already a puppet. Hello. Aww. Sock puppets are one of the easiest puppets to make. You put your thumb in the heel and your fingers in the toes. There are two different ways of making your sock puppet's mouth. So I'm going to show both ways. I will show the first way and talk about it. I will do the second way and talk about it. and that way you get an idea of both. The first way is simpler. If you want to do that, dive right in. This is the mouth of your sock puppet. This works better for smaller socks that fit tighter on your hand. You might want to put a mouth plate in that mouth. There's a couple different ways to do it. A nice big piece of fabric, lay it down on your surface, take your marker and trace around the edge, trying not to get it on your sock. Cut that shape out, and then you can sew it or glue it into the mouth of your creature.
And I'm going to pause it there because that's already the first thing that you're going to do with your sock puppet, is you're going to figure out how you want to do the mouth. Now, don't sew or glue anything in yet. I'm going to show a little bit about socks first. I didn't really talk about this in the video, but and this is probably logical, but you do want a sock that doesn't have great big holes in it, as this one here that I recently got from my husband demonstrates. If you have a hole in the sock, you are going to want to sew that up first. Sometimes you can glue something over top of it. That's okay too. I recommend sewing it just because it just makes life easier later. This little guy here actually had a little damage in the nose. I don't know if my camera will pick it up, right above where my finger is. And I received the sock like that, actually. I get donated used socks, and back in the before times, I used to do this workshop with actual people in galleries and children's festivals and music festivals and stuff, and people would donate socks, and somebody repaired that one before I got it, which is kind of cool. So there's two ways of doing the mouth, and I do apologize. I'm going to be repeating things that the video is going to say, and the video is going to repeat things that I'm going to say. So this is the first mouth style. I'll show it really quick. That's thumb in the heel, fingers in the toe. I'm going to let the video play a bit longer. And if you want to get started on making the mouth plate, I'm going to say this too. In the video, I don't mention this. I'm going to show some examples at the end of the video. I'll show them right now. You don't have to put a mouth plate in at all. This is a dragon, and all I've got there is a tongue. And there's no mouth plate in the sock whatsoever. There's just a tongue that's defining where the mouth is. So that's an option too. If you really hate gluing and really hate sewing, you could just put a tongue. So this is the time to think about, and if you know what you want to do, start doing a mouth plate, a tongue. Think about ways you want that mouth to be in your dragon. I'm going to play the video now, and it's going to show the two different styles of dragon. The simpler one first, and then the more complicated one. So I got to go back to share screen. And we resume where we were.
You could use felt for this, fabric, cardstock, paper. Okay, so I'm going to do a sample mouth plate for the first type of mouth. I am tracing around my shape. I did it with pencil, so
and I'll pause really momentarily because I think I might be confusing. The simple mouth plate, the simple mouth and the more complicated mouth I'm going to show, they can use the same mouth plate. So either choice, you can start making the mouth plate, and it will work on both dragons, both styles of dragon.
Wouldn't get any marks on my sock. I am drawing a better version of that shape with my marker so that when I cut it out, it's easy to see it. Sock puppets tend to have a bigger upper mouth and a smaller lower jaw. So there's the mouth of my sock puppet. There's my sock puppet. And I want to hold that to it to see where to bend it. Oh, and I can see because I traced around the sock, the mouth is going to be too big, which means I need to make this a little bit smaller. Better to start too big and make it smaller as you go. My sock, there's my mouth. And you can see there's a fold at the back of it. If you use a stiffer material like construction paper or cardboard, then you may want to put a crease there for where you're going to open and close that mouth. Oh, I can see I'm going to have to make the chin a little bit smaller too. There. Oh, I'm quite happy with that. So there's the mouth. And this is a paper mouth, but as I said, I could have done this out of felt, out of fabric, out of other materials. If I used fabric, I could sew that in, which would be quite nice, and it would be a very nice malleable mouth. It would have a lot of flexibility to it for expressiveness. Fabric is quite fun for that. If it's a paper mouth, it's nice and solid, so it has a very nice opening and closing feel, but it's a little less flexible. If you sew the mouth in, again, more flexibility, but this you could glue the mouth in. Now wait on the gluing, because I'm going to come to that. I'm going to show you the second way of doing the head now, because I want to show both. I'm just going to use one puppet and show you both ways. So now I am going to show the second way of shaping the head, and this is particularly good if you have a big sock that's kind of floppy on your hand. If the sock is too big, it's a little harder to use as a puppet. Although this might be fun to work with, you could do something with that. I'm going to show you a trick to shorten the nose by doing a fold in the top of the puppet's head. I'm going to pick up the sock and then I'm going to fold in to the sock there. I'm making a fold and I'm going from the side of the heel, and you can actually see there's a little bit of stitching where the heel is, and I'm going to go over the top of his head, which is where my knuckles are, to the other side. I'm just going to straighten up that heel. There we go. Make sure my thumb is in the middle, putting that fold in, and it's shortening this part of the sock. It's making this part of the sock go into that fold, and then I'm going to sew this down. You can glue it, but I'm going to recommend sewing it flexibility. So I've got my fold where I want it, but when I pull this off my hand, I'm going to pull that fold out of there. So what I want to do is pin it with a great big safety pin. If you have a friend, perhaps someone bigger, get their help with the safety pinning. I'm being very careful not to stab myself with the pin, and I'm putting in 2 pins, one on either side, and I'm making sure I'm going through all the layers of sock and not my hand. All right, so I have pinned that fold. I can now take this off my hand, and I'm going to put the sock onto a jar or can. This is recommended in the tools list. I hope you've got this. I'm going to use the jar, and as I slide it off, the part where my fingers are, the nose of the sock, I'm going to slide that down over the can. The pins have kept my fold in place. Once I've got that onto the can or the jar that I am using, I'm just going to tidy that up. I'm getting all the wrinkles out. I'm making sure I can see where the heel is. I can see that little bit of fancy stitching right where the heel starts going towards the heel. I've got the heel here on the bottom. There's his mouth. And then these pins are kind of where his eyes and ears will go. And so that makes this his forehead. And I'm going to pause it there and come back to all of us. So hopefully that was fairly clear. The first style of sock puppet, let me just adjust my camera a little up, and then I can hold this in front of the green background. This is a really good mouth for a smaller sock. It's easier to do. There's no fold. My hand is right in there. I'm going to put this hand over top. My hand is just in there like that. And that's a nice, easy mouth that I can then, if I want to put a mouth plate in, and then I can glue or sew that. And I'll show you how to glue or sew that in a minute. The second way is good if you've got a really big floppy sock, like this enormous sock here. And the fold, I'm going to hope that my video showed that well, but if anybody has any questions about that, please let me know. And that's, you're tucking the toe, the foot, I guess, part of the sock into a fold that you're creating
from the side of the heel. You can actually see it really well on this one because it's got the black and the gray. From the side of the heel over, whoops, over to the other side of the heel. And then this way you can control how long your nose is. And there's a lot of sort of finagling with the sock to get it into the right position. So don't try to be fast about doing any of this. Take your time, look at the sock, see where you'll see the little stitching, the special little stitching near where the heel is. You'll see that if you're doing it this way. How many people are doing it the first way with just the simple sock? Yeah, okay, good. And how many people are doing it the fancier way with the fold? Cool. The fold will take you a little bit longer to make your sock puppet because there is the additional stitching. I'm actually going to show right now, and I did mention this in the thing, you can glue under that fold if you want to, if you really hate sewing, but there is an advantage if you sew it. You can actually put stuffing in there and actually create some more shape to your dragon. But either way, you can also put stuffing into the sock to shape your dragon. So, you know, it's all good. There's no wrong way. It's all good. Either way, that mouth plate that we created will fit into either type of mouth. So has everybody got their jar and their can? You can use a soup can. It can still have soup in it as long as it's closed. I like an empty can because then when you put the sock onto it, you can tuck, this is the neck of the dragon, the end of the sock, you can actually tuck that inside the jar. Or if you have a can and it's open. So I'm going to resume the video again, and it's now going to talk about the gluing or sewing of the mouth plate. The reason that we have a can or jar is so that we can glue right onto that sock and not burn our hands on the inside. We don't have to hold the sock in its shape. The can will hold its shape. So I'm going to resume the video now, and we'll see how that goes. Oh, I got a message that the video is lagging a bit. Hopefully the mix of the video and me live will cover everything. If anyone has any questions, do please ask. And resuming video.
To sew, I am going to grab a color of yarn. Let's go with red. So my great big embroidery needle, my yarn, and I'll give a quick tip on a good way to thread a needle. You twist the thread or the yarn so that it's tight. You hold it so only the tiniest bit is sticking out between your fingers, and then you gently rock the needle onto the thread. Once you've got a bit of thread through the eye of the needle, pull it and your needle is threaded. I'm going to use about an arm's length of thread, and I'm going to double it. So this is about an arm's length, and then I'm going to have 2 lines of thread to work with. I'm going to tie a knot. So I've tied a knot in the end of my thread. I'm going to start at the point of the sock where the fancy stitching for the heel is, and I'm going to lock my thread. I'm going to go through the sock, and before I get to the end of my thread, I'm going to leave a little loop there, and I'm going to go through that loop, and I'm going to pull tight, and I have locked the thread. I've got a couple little bits of yarn sticking out. I'm going to leave those there. They're going to become whiskers. And I'm going to pause myself there really quick. The little whiskers, you can just tuck them under the fold if you don't want the whiskers. Just tuck them in. For anybody not doing the more complicated head, you're just going to have to wait through this bit, and we'll get to the gluing and sewing of the mouth plate when this bit is done. You could think about other parts of your dragon while we focus on this part. add more whiskers to my dragon. I don't know. We'll find out. As you are sewing, make sure you go through the nose part of the sock and the head fold of the sock. So nose, head. And I'm just going to do a whip stitch, but you could do a ladder stitch, also known as a Henson stitch. But I'm doing a whip stitch because then I have the fun of still seeing the thread. This is why I am sewing on a jar, because I won't stab myself. So I've gone from one side, that's where the jaw hinge is, all the way over to the other side, where the other side of the jaw hinge is. There's the mouth. I definitely don't want to sew that mouth shut. One more stitch, and I'm going to tie my knot. I tie the knot very similar to the way I locked the thread when I started. I'm going to go through a little bit of sock, just a little bit, and I pull the thread, and I've got a loop there, and then I'm going to go back through that loop and pull it tight. I'm going to do that 2 or 3 times. This time I'm going to go just through the thread. Pull it tight, and that's pretty good. And I'm going to leave a little bit of yarn to be my whiskers. Now I have to do one more thing before I can take this off the jar if I want to try it on my hands. I've got to take the pins out. That's the front of his head, but this is the back of his head. I now have to sew the back of his head the exact same way I sewed the front of his head. It's a little trickier because you can't see the fold, but you can feel it with your fingers. That's where I'm going to start sewing. So knot in my thread. I'm going to lock the stitching again through the loop, a whip stitch, up over the top of his head to the other side. I don't want to sew underneath because I still need to be able to get my thumb in there so that I can open and close his mouth. As I sew, I'm making sure that I am going through the top part of the sock and the bottom fold of the sock and sewing those together. This is a little more complicated than the first way I showed you with just having the sock on your hand. Having the little fold there means a little more time to make the sock, but it has a few advantages. It tightens up the face a bit. You can make a bigger sock fit a smaller hand. All right, I've gone over the top. I'm stopping there, and I'm tying a knot on this side now. Trim it, and there, he's got a couple of little red whiskers. I'm going to take the sock off the jar now, and you'll see the new shape I've created. It's very similar to the first type of head. The main difference is a shorter nose, a bit more forehead here, and a deeper mouth. I'm going to show you a neat thing you can do with this. Depending on the size that you've made this fold, if you have some stuffing, and you can use old sock scraps too for stuffing, and in where his jaw is, you can slide the stuffing. And I'm just smushing it in there. I'm going to do a bit on this side, and now a bit on the other side. I'm going right in where the jaw is. Sometimes it takes a bit of smushing to get the shape right, but I've now actually got a bit of a cranium, a bit of skull shape onto my sock dragon. So this is a neat trick you can do with this style of sock face. The other face is a little longer. It's a little flatter on the top of the head. It's a little easier to do. This one, it's a little harder to do, but you get this neat shape here if you want to put a little stuffing in there, and you get the deeper mouth. So now I could use the same mouth.
I'm going to pause there too. I'm going to let the video keep running, and that's for the people who are not doing the fold. They need the next bit of information. Anyone who is sewing, though, you just keep working. The video is edited, so it's a little faster. I don't expect anybody to have both lines of the head sewn yet. So keep sewing, and I will repeat the mouth information, but I'm going to let the video keep playing for those who have been waiting for this information because their socks are already ready for the mouth.
Plate, and I could take fabric and sew that in. I could take paper and glue that in. I'm going to do gluing the paper in. I'm going to take the sock and put it back on the jar or can, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open that mouth And you can sort of see in the mouth where the fold is, where the bottom of his jaw hinges to the top of his mouth. I'm going to open the sock up, and I'm going to use my marker, and I'm just going to put a little line there, just so I know where, that's basically the back of his throat. I just want to know where that is. My sock also has some writing on it. It says, Happy Foot. I'm going to cover the writing with my piece of paper. So my paper has a little fold in it. That's the back of his throat. My sock has a little marking on it. That's the back of his throat. I'm pausing there because I'll show on this one too. This is for the people who haven't done the fold forehead thing. I have made a mark where the back of the throat is while it's on my hand. This is important because this is the easiest way to sew it in. You also might, depending on the color of your sock and stuff, you could put a mark where your thumb is and where your fingers are, but I think it's easiest to do it where the back of the throat is going to be, because then that part is going to get covered up. And so hold the mouth plate against the sock and figure out on it where the back of it is too. In fact, you might even want to do a little mark there. And now I just did a dot. And now I know where the fold is going to be. That way, when you put this sock onto the can or jar, I'm going to use a jar because my jar is a little bit longer than my can, and my sock is a bit longer. If you only have a short can, what you'll want to do is move the can up and down inside the sock so that the part that you're working on, we're going to find that mark that we just made, the back of the throat. That part that you're working on is always going to be sort of centered on the can. So when you're working on the nose, the can is deeper in the sock. When you're working on the chin, you move the can the other way down the sock, and that way the can is always under the area that you're working on. I don't think I said that in the video at all. I'm going to resume the video now, which is going to talk, oh, and if you're sewing it, you're going to want to, I do say this in the video, I'm about to say this in the video. If you're sewing it, you'll want to pin it in place to where you're going to sew it. So you would put it in the can, get the back of the mouth plate lined up with the back of the sock's throat, line that all up, and pin it down, and then you're ready to sew it. And again, keep the can under the place where you're sewing. You may need to move the can under the sock as you sew around. Hopefully that made sense. If you're gluing it, same thing. If you're gluing it, you don't need to pin it down. If you're gluing it, same thing. You want to make sure the can is under the place where you're working. I'm going to let the video now explain things better than I am right now. I'm now going to glue it in. If you have the fold, or if you don't have the fold, you glue the mouth in the same way. You put the mouth in the jar, and then if you're sewing, you would put the mouth down, maybe pin it, and then sew around it with your needle and thread while it's on the jar. If you're gluing it, you set it down and you glue it while it's on the jar. Don't cover the whole thing in glue and try to glue it all at once. Whether you're using paper or fabric, it's a flexible enough material. What I'm going to do is put a little glue, get the placement correct. The glue is hot, but because I've only done a little glue in the middle, it's not squishing out the edges. That's something you don't want to have happen. So now I can bend my paper and I can add a bit more glue. I shall interrupt to give a hot glue tip. When you need to add a new glue stick to your glue gun, put a little tiny dab of glue on the end of the stick. When you insert it in the gun, you'll be gluing the new stick to the end of the old stick, and it won't fall out. As you glue the mouth in, just do a bit at a time. Press things very carefully. You don't want to burn yourself. Try to get to the edges as well as you're able. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just doing a section at a time. If you get a little glue onto the edge of the sock, just say it's drool. Hot glue safety, Don't burn yourself. So I've glued the top of the mouth plate now. Now I'm going to glue the bottom, and I'm going to move the sock a little further along the jaw. And I'm going to flatten out that jaw. If I've made a very deep fold here, I might want to leave some sock wrinkles here. Just glue the tip of the mouth plate to the tip of the heel of the sock. You don't need to glue all of this sock that's in the back of his throat, because if you've done a big fold, there's going to be a lot of sock in there. Don't worry about that. Just make sure that the tip of the mouth plate lines up with the tip of his chin. If you are sewing this, use a pin and pin the fabric where you want it. Pin it so that it'll be right at the tip of the chin, and then don't worry too much about this space here and this space here, because that will be inside his mouth. So I'm laying down his chin. I'm just going to hold it on either side with my hand. I'm going to put some glue. It's almost done. There's the tip of his mouth, and I've just got to glue a little more sock to it. I'm pausing again. A tip to make sure, sorry, not sure how to say it. If you've got that thumb piece, I'll use the dragon that I was just using, this part, and you are sewing, just make sure that you don't sew the top to the bottom. You will have that fold, that flap that is the bottom jaw, and you don't want to sew right through both parts of the sock. You want to make sure that you've stretched it out on your can so that you are sewing just one layer of sock. So I didn't say that in the video, I just wanted to make sure. If you are doing the easier mouth plate, you can actually just stretch your whole sock out on the jar, and you don't even have to worry about that. That part's easier on the easier style of puppet. I shall now resume the video. I'm going to pull him off the jar now and see how I did. I'll put my hand in, my thumb goes into the heel, my fingers go into the top of his mouth, and there he is. He's got a bit of an overbite, but that's because most sock puppets have small chins. So there is the mouth. Rawr. I can put, if I want, a little stuffing in his nose, and that's going to give him even more shape. If you don't have stuffing, you could use remnants of an old sock. Oh, he's got a very bumpy nose now. And that's just stuffing loose in the toe of the sock to form a little more shape to his nose. So I'm going to pause it there again because we are probably not caught up with me in the video. I'll get us all working together now. I am not caught up with me in my own video. I am not as fast as myself with editing. So I actually glued the bottom of the mouth first, and now I'm gluing the top of the mouth. It doesn't matter if you do the bottom first and then the top, or the top first and then the bottom. It's going to be the same effect either way. So I've chosen to glue mine. Did anybody choose to sew their mouth plates in? Yeah, nice. Sewing will always take a little bit longer than the gluing. And my glue just ran out, so I'm doing the trick that I showed where you put a little dab of glue on the end and you insert the glue into the glue gun, and it glues the current tube of glue to the new tube of glue. And when you're gluing, just glue a little at a time, and take your time with it. I have glued mine so there's actually a little bit of an edge all around because I didn't want any of the glue to squish out the sides. What I might do now is actually go back with my hot glue gun and just glue all those little edges and go around the whole edge of the mouth
keeping the jar underneath, and glue all the edges down. If I do that, I do run the risk of having some glue squish out the sides. I don't want to burn my fingers, so I'm going to be very careful. A trick you can do for that is if you have a little masking tape. I don't say this in the video, but if you have a little masking tape and you cover your fingers in some masking tape and then press where the glue is, the masking tape can protect you not from the heat, but at least from getting glued to your puppet. But I'm going to say, just, you know, everybody be very, very, very careful with the glue, especially if there's any youngins out there. I say small people in the video. I mean youngsters. I mean young, yeah. So I'm going to do a little trim around the edge with the glue. And the other thing you can do is you can occasionally take the sock off of the jar and try it on your hand and just see how it's going, see how it's looking. It's kind of nice to meet your dragon slowly as you build it. You will discover who they are. You'll discover they might have a personality, which might help you decide how you want to decorate them. Another way to not have hot glue squish out the sides is to use very minimal amounts of glue. A little will go a long way. You can use other glues. I have recommended hot glue because it is the best for this purpose. If you wanted to try this project again, you can use white glue, but then it will take forever to dry. Just slightly forever. Oh, I got some glue squishing out the sides. All right, my dragon's drooling. There, I'm going to take it off the jar now and see how it's looking. Now I gave him a very wide mouth. You could also have designed this narrower or smaller, but there's the mouth. It is actually, because it's so wide, a little bit of the red sticks out on the side, so he's actually got lips. Here, I'll just hold up. There. La la. La la la. Rawr, rawr. He's got sort of an alligator face. These are my own knuckles that are giving the shape up there in the top. But, as mentioned, you could take stuffing, or if you've got some scraps, or maybe the other sock from your pair of socks, you could even roll that up and stick that inside the sock to give it a bit of shape. So I'm just gonna do a little. I also didn't examine my sock that I chose very closely before I started working with it. It has a hole in it. It's actually got a little blemish right there. So I think what I'm going to do is that's where his nose is going to go, and I'm going to glue something right over top of that hole, and then I don't have to sew it. So there, oh there, I've got, that's kind of cute. He's got like a big schnoz, but a small forehead. I could put more stuffing in here. Ooh, it's very comfortable on your hand. If you have stuffing and you put stuffing in your sock, it's very comfortable on your hand. Now he's got an even bigger head. Oh, he's starting to look like a dinosaur. I think I've got a bit of a dinosaur shape going on there now. I've got a lot of stuffing up here, and I've got a lot of stuffing there. Although, you know what? I liked that other shape where he was a little more alligator-y looking. So I'm going to leave the stuffing in my nose, and I'm going to take the stuffing out of the forehead. You, of course, can choose how much or little stuffing that you want. There. Now, how are people feeling? Shall I continue the video? The video is now going to move on to other body parts. But because we are doing it this way in this special magical figment room with the figment workshop, I can actually hold off a little on playing more of the video, or I can resume the video. We're actually close to the break time. It is getting it's about 5 minutes to 5 o'clock. We were going to have a break in the midway, so maybe that's a good. Maybe I'll hold off on the video until we get back from the break, and I think that'll give everybody a chance to do stuff. If you do wish to continue working on your dragon, you can jump ahead a bit and think about things like, do you want to give it a tongue? Do you want to give it teeth? If you've sewn the mouth in, you can sew teeth in, which is pretty cool. You can glue teeth in. There's lots of different things that you can make teeth out of. I've got teeth made out of paper. I've got teeth made out of, oh, here we go. This guy's got really nice teeth. He's only got teeth. He's got no teeth on his top. He's only got teeth on his bottom, and they're made of fun foam. And his tongue is made out of a little bit of velvet. And he's got a pointy triangle tongue. So I think if you want to keep going, let's put some details in the mouth. And then when we come back from the break afterwards, we can start doing, like, I think eyes are the next part, if my memory serves me correctly. Eyes are a very important part of the puppet, so we'll definitely want to come back and put eyes on them. Does anyone want to show off what they've done so far? If you want to show off, unmute yourself and let us know how you're doing and what exciting things you're up to. I don't know if I'm going to say this right. Ada, that's beautiful. Here's another hot glue tip. So I'm being a bit sloppy with my glue, and I'm getting bits around the edges of my mouth, and they look kind of awful. I could just leave it though and have, like, I can have an awful dragon with drool. I could actually add glue and make him look all, you know, like he's got lots of drool on his mouth. That would be fun. But if I want to have a cleaner dragon, a nice tidy dragon, what I might want to do is take my scissors, and I can actually trim the hot glue once it's cool. If there's bits sticking out like I've got here, hopefully the camera is picking that up, I can actually trim that with scissors. If I trim it with scissors, I want to be very careful that I don't cut the sock. You are better to trim less than to trim too much and put a big hole in your sock and have your thumb sticking out there, and then you have to sew that up. So just if you're going to trim any of the hot glue from around the edges, just trim a tiny bit. Another trick you can do, I love me my Sharpie markers. Here is my Sharpie marker collection. I have many colors. And you can color onto the hot glue with your Sharpie marker, and I could either color this red to match the lips, or I could, my sock is actually a very dark blue. I could color it blue to match the sock, dark blue, or maybe black. Maybe I just go over it with black. And I can use my marker to cover up the hot glue as well. Oh, Lori, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Robin, can you show your teeth? Not your teeth, the dragon's teeth.
I'll show a few different teeth.
Okay.
So there's this guy here, and he's got a folded head. He's actually one where I glued it. Let me take him right off the bottle. This is bottles are a very good way to display your sock puppets.
So he's one of the ones that has the fold, but his fold was glued and then there was no stuffing put in it. So it was just flat and no stuffing. So there is his mouth. And these are fun foam. And what I did was I cut out each tooth individually and glued them in there. The video is going to show a special trick using masking tape for how to glue little tiny things. So right now you could cut out your teeth and assemble them, but wait to glue them in. We're going to get to a really nice trick for how to handle tiny objects when you're using hot glue, which is really simple. It's using masking tape. So yeah, and his tongue is glued down to his mouth. It's not wiggly, but you have the option that you could glue it just at the back and then have like a floppy tongue. Some of them, this one here, whoops, this is another one that's got no mouth plate and just a tongue. That one's sewn in. You can actually see the knots of the thread where it's sewn. But you can just glue the tongue at the back and have a tongue like that. And that's kind of fun too, because if you're playing with the dragon, you can tuck all that up into the mouth like that and then go bleh, and have the tongue come out. Or I think this one looks a bit like fire. So there's another idea. Instead of putting a tongue in the dragon's mouth, you could make some fire. You could even make the fire as a separate prop and then hold the dragon's mouth with it with your thumb, and then have when he wants to breathe the fire, and then take it away when he's not breathing the fire, so that you don't accidentally burn your house down with fake fire. It would be fake burning down with fake fire. I'm also using all of my jars where I keep all of my supplies are my display stands for all of my puppets. And you leave their head a little floppy, and you got a nice thing on your shelf. I'm going to show some more teeth just because I can. Oh, this is a really cute mouth. This one is a Halloween cat. I want to do, once I get better at making these videos, I want to do one for making a Halloween cat and maybe have that released next Halloween. And he's just got a little round mouth. It's like a perfect circle. And he's made with the fold again, but I made the fold really short and put all the stuffing sort of at the front of it. And so the cat's got a really round head to look a little more cat-like, a little less dragon-like. And the cat's got a little tongue, little pink tongue. And this one is sewn in with thread. I do occasionally use thread. I actually prefer yarn, just because I like the colors and I like showing. I like seeing the making of it in it. So I like that. But I mean, if anybody here is a really good sewer, you can totally hide the stitches and have everything seamless. That's a good thing too. Here's a funny one. If you're really, 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 really bad at sewing, just use pins for everything. And this one here, I think this was made at this was actually made at a slam performance thing, and we just left a bunch of socks for everybody to play with. And it's all stickers. There is no sewing on this puppet. It's pipe cleaners that have been stabbed through it, and it's got little pipe cleaner arms. And the mouth is the only part that's glued, and actually the mouth is just held on there with masking tape. That's literally, that's a roll of masking tape under there. And the eyes are stickers. And the hair, oh, the hair is sewed. There's a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of sewing there. But the ears are just held on with the safety pins. And there is nothing wrong with safety pins. Safety pins are fantastic. I've got, where is it? I always have my giant pin full of many, many, many little pins. And to give you an idea, there's my hand. So you can see how lovely this giant pin is. But then there's all my tiny ones, and if I ever need to fix a puppet, that's what I use. I don't know if the microphone's picking that up. It's a lovely sound. The sound of pins. So yeah, this is the dead simplest
dragon in my collection. It's kind of cute with a little tuft of hair there, little floof of hair, and sort of crazy round eyes. So we were going to have an official break, but I just kept talking. So if anybody wants to get some tea now, I am actually going to run over and reheat my tea really quick. So I'll be gone for about a minute. I'll just leave the camera pointing at all the little dragons and things. And keep working if you want to keep working. And if you want to have a little jumping and stretching and whatever, now is the time. Now is a good time. Any time is a good time, but now is another good time. I'll be right back. I'm back. Oh, spider webs of hot glue. I don't think I mentioned this in the video, but here's another tip. This is why you're here, for all the fun tips. Hot glue loves to leave little spider webs on everything. The best way to get rid of there's no way to eliminate them completely. Some people are really good with a hot glue gun and almost never see them. Some people are terrible with glue guns, and it looks like they've been attacked by that big spider from Lord of the Rings at the end of their session of craft making. Both ways are fine. Roll the glue together. Roll it into little balls. That is the best way to deal with it. You can actually put your hand right on your table. Is my table in view? Yes. And just sort of roll it around, and you get these little balls of glue. And what I normally do is I brush them all onto the floor, and then when I'm done, I vacuum the floor. But I think for this one, I'm just going to drop it in my jar of rocks. I'll show you. There's the inside of my hot glue jar. It's got a bunch of rocks that are now all covered in glue, and oh, you know what? Some of them are still loose in there. I didn't fill it completely full of glue though, because I need a place to put the nozzle in when I put the glue gun in. But the rocks make sure it's stable. It's not going to fall off my table or tip over when I put the glue in it. But I don't use it a whole lot. I just put the glue like that, and then when I know I'm not going to be gluing for a while, I put it in the jar.
Robin?
Yes?
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Okay, I use felt on mine, but I notice I use the glue gun and it's all crumpled up. Is it better to sew the felt compared to
It's going to wrinkle if you sew it, because when you sew it, it leaves a lot of the flexibility of the fabric. I'm not really sure what to say for it. The wrinkles are just sort of going to naturally happen. Mine's a fairly thick felt.
Oh, so yours is felt also, okay.
This is also felt. Yeah, this is from this sheet of felt here. Which you can see it's a fairly
It is thicker. Mine's is thin.
Yeah.
But I use the glue gun. So with the felt, should you sew it or use the glue gun?
Either way is okay. The trick is in how you apply it. So let me find. I've got somebody. Oh, here's one that's actually this one is felt that's been sewn. Whoops. But you can sort of see there's wrinkles there too.
Right. Okay.
The thinner the fabric, the more it's going to wrinkle. Oh, here's another one that's not felt. It's actually this crazy shiny fabric, but you can see it wrinkles a fair bit too.
Okay.
If you don't like the wrinkles, there is actually a trick. I didn't show this in the video, but there's a trick for unhot gluing. It leaves glue residue, but what you can do, and you can put it on the jar, and if you have a heat gun, or I don't own a heat gun, but I have a hair blower, you can hair blow it, and as you hair blow it, it'll get quite hot, and you'll probably want a tool. You won't want to use your hands for this, because this will get quite hot. You can actually take like a tool. That's my big giant needle nose pliers, and you can actually press into the wrinkles while you're blow drying it. What I do is I'll set it down on a safe surface. Sometimes I'll actually put it, like I do a lot of work on my lap, and I'll set it on my lap, but this gets quite hot. So you put it down, you have one hand blow drying it, and the other hand you can actually press into the wrinkles and smooth them. But you do have to be careful with that. I'd say this is something that it takes a few times before you're actually good at it, because sometimes you just make more wrinkles.
Right. I'm going to leave it as it is.
Yeah. What that does is it softens up the glue. And then if you want to peel something off, you can actually, which dragon? This dragon here. I actually sewed his eyes, glued, didn't sew. Glued his eyes on, and I didn't like where I'd put the glue, where I'd put the eyes. So I actually blow dried it until it got quite hot, and I had my pliers, and I took the tip of the eye, and I peeled the eye, and I had to heat it and peel it and heat it and peel it and heat it and peel it and just sort of go. And I took the eye right off, stuck it on in a new place, and didn't like the new place either, and had to do it again. And then the other one was fine, because then I knew where to put
So
them.
for that dragon, is that foam or is that construction paper?
This one's fun foam.
So fun foam is like regular foam?
Fun foam is, let's see, I've got some kicking around here somewhere. Fun foam is rubbery.
Okay.
So it's about the same thickness as felt. It's about the same bendy as felt.
Okay.
But it's actually kind of a rubbery material. I'm gonna flick it and see if it'll.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I hopefully you can hear that.
I
and
did.
There are different thicknesses of it too.
Oh.
This black one is actually, that's about 1 millimeter thick. That black piece. And this blue piece is, there, I'll put them together. The blue piece is a little bit thinner.
Wow. Okay.
And Michael's, I don't know if the dollar store would have it, but definitely any craft store, scrapbooking stores would probably have it. Comes in a variety of color. There's my box
Oh
of
my
colors.
goodness.
This is actually scraps from teaching kids. So many of them have, let's see if that'll pick it up. There's some artwork from one of my past students. I have a whole collection of them here, actually. These ones here are all things that kids rejected.
And you can reuse it.
I'll just reuse it, yep.
Yeah.
Some of these ones here are actually stickers. They were from a mosaic sticker kit that was on sale at Michael's or one of the craft stores. And I bought the set with no intention of ever making the mosaics. I would take these to music festivals and workshops, and then the kids would like take the little stickers and stick them to their dragons. They're not high quality stickers. In fact, as I'm holding this, several of them just fell off. But yeah, you can get like fun glitter stickers and stuff like that. You could decorate your dragon with that too. I am going to decorate my computer. Oh, I dropped it. I don't know where it went. All right.
Thank you.
Oops. Yeah, this dragon here, take him off the, oh, he's not on a can, he's on a cardboard tube. Another useful tool. This one here, he's got a fun foam tongue, so you can see it actually holds it, it sticks up a bit. So he's got a black fun foam tongue. And he's got this, like it's not stuffing in there. I think I rolled up a bunch of fun foam and stuck that in his forehead. But he's not the sewn one, he's the simple pattern. And then all of this
is fun foam, and sometimes felt. This one's felt. This one's fun foam. That's just glued on, and then let's see if I can get that right on my knuckles. There. And I gave him a blue mouth because it was already a red dragon, and he's actually, if you look closely, you can see Santa Claus upside down there. He's Santa Claus wearing sunglasses. That's the beard. There's his sunglasses. There's his hat. And there should be like a little, there's the end of his hat. So, and he's got weird hypnotic eyes. Oh, and there's some of the stickers. There's a couple stickers there.
Robin,
Yes?
I have a question for you.
Okay.
You've been very adamant about not putting holes in the sock.
Uh-huh.
I have a very heavy tongue, and I want to put a hole in the sock so that it will go back into where my hand is so I can stick it forward.
Okay.
Is that okay?
You can totally do that. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
What the holes that I was talking about were unintentional holes.
Well, this is intentional, but I want to
it's-
make sure I'm not going to wreck it. Like
No.
my sock puppet looks like Dolly
No.
Parton with her mouth. So
Make sure, I would recommend take your pen and mark where you want to cut that hole before you cut it, so that you know that you're getting it in exactly the right space.
I did something wrong with my mouth, so I can't get way in there.
Oh,
So I have to go backwards and through behind.
okay. Do you want? Can you put it on and show me?
Ah! If you want me to. Because I did it wrong. So there's the, can you see that? The tongue.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And can you see that? There's the mouth.
Yeah.
So I want it to go back inside the sock.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I'm doing this right or not. Back inside the sock so that I can stick the tongue out when I want to.
Yeah. So maybe you want to put like a little hole, like right. See, I've still got the dot on my fabric where the back of my throat
Yeah,
is.
that's as wide as your mouth will go because I can't go any further. And you can see what.
Can you just sort of poke it inside out like that?
No. No, I
Not
didn't.
at all.
No, I did it wrong.
Then, okay, can you take the sock and sort of like close the mouth, and then pull the sock down off your hand?
Well, that's how I had it when I was showing it to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I can do that.
Okay, then that's where you would make the cut.
Okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to do because it's really screwed up here. Thank you.
Your sock mouth, Patty, if I may call you Patty.
Dad, I know.
Mother, looks more like what I call a lamb chop style mouth. And
Yes.
lamb chop's mouth, my dragons, the instruction I've been giving is heel to toe, but lamb chop is actually, the heel is actually the top of her head, and then the entire tip of the sock is pushed inside, and that makes the mouth. So that's just another style of sock mouth. That's nothing wrong with it. That's another way of doing it.
That's what I did. It was a mistake.
It's not a mistake. It's not a mistake. It's the way that dragon is.
I got very excited before you started talking. That's what happened.
Oh, this is neat. This sock inside out has weird fluffy bits. Maybe if I make a dragon out of this sock someday, I'm going to keep those fluffy bits, so I'll have to make him inside out so that the fluffy bits will be on the correct side. All right. I think we are ready to continue with eyeballs, right? How is everybody doing? Have we all got mouths? Oh, and teeth. Nice. So I'm going to resume the video. The video is now going to talk about eyes and stuff. And yeah, we'll take it from there. I am going to check the time too. We're about halfway through the video, so that's good. Oh, and I see some people in the chat. Oh, and yes, if anybody needs to leave early, that's good. I will, if you're on my Facebook page, which is RoRoArt, Facebook
ROROART. I will put the link to the YouTube there. I would put it in the chat here now, except that that's more than my brain can handle to go and get that and copy it and get it. So I will put it for sure on the Facebook page, and then everybody can access that video anytime that they like and pause it at any point that they like. All right, I'm going to resume the sharing. For the tongue, did I use red cloth or file folder? I think I used cloth. Most of my tongues, I used the more flexible material. The only difference would be, do you want a tongue that is firmer and holds its shape? And you can curl paper too, which is kind of cool. You could have a curly tongue with the paper and it will hold its shape, or a more floppy tongue that just is floppy. And I think Patty's tongue is pipe cleaner. Is it pipe cleaner? No? You're muted. What's your tongue made of?
It's a wire, an electrical wire.
Oh, okay.
And it's a very stiff, and that's why it can hold its curl. I don't know if I can show you that. See, it's got
Nice.
a curl to it. And now I can pull it back into my sock or stick it out.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you can use wire. Very cool.
It's heavy, so it's very heavy for the sock puppet, like for her mouth. It's a girl.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Can you mute yourself again? And I am going to share video, and we're going to resume and learn about eyeballs, I think is next. We'll find out. I don't remember what's next. I think it's eyeballs.
You can decide how much or how little stuffing you want in his cranium and in his nose. That's up to you. Other examples of mouth plates. This one is one that I have not put the fold into the head, and this mouth was just made by gluing in a piece of felt. This one has the fold in the head, but I haven't put any stuffing in it, and the mouth is a piece of fabric that's glued in it again. This one has the fold, there's a little bit of stuffing in there, and the mouth plate is a bit of mat board. This one is less flexible than this one, but I think they're both excellent ways of doing a mouth for your dragon. This one has nothing for a mouth plate. It is just the sock. There's a tongue there, but that's just the sock without any mouth plate. You don't even have to put a mouth plate in it. And this is the most flexible one of all. Here's another mouth example with lots of stuffing in the nose. There's only a tongue, or maybe this is fire, sewn into the back of the throat there, and a very flexible mouth. Here's an example of a sewn mouth. This one's a cat, and you can see the stitching holding the mouth in place. Once you have the mouth plate, you can add things like teeth, tongue, fire. I'm going to come back to that and add those a little later. So we've got the very important mouth. Now I think we need some eyes. Eyes are a very important part of your puppet because that gives everyone something to look at, and that gives the puppet something to look at everyone with. There's lots of different ways of doing eyes. You could sew some beads on there. You could put Google eyes, buttons, bead eyes. These are just beads that have been sewn on, and I've actually used marker to color the pupils. Those were big wooden beads. Here's another example of bead eyes. These eyes were sewn on, and that's fabric tape to make the pupils of the eyes. This puppet has beads sewn onto a felt bottom, and then I've used the yarn that I sewed it with to make eyelashes. This puppet has the fold, and the fold has actually made eyebrows over pom-poms, which I glued in, and then that's a bit of black duct tape to make the pupil of the eye. And I added a faux fur eyebrow. This one has fun foam eyes. This is quite nice. It's several layers of the fun foam, and I've colored with marker, and that's actually a little tiny bit of a sequin to give the little twinkle in the eye. I'm going to use 2 star sparkly beads for the eyes. So this dragon is going to get sparkly bead eyes, which I am going to sew on with black thread. Threading my needle again, making sure it's not longer than my arm. If it's too long, it turns into a big tangle. I want to decide where the eyes are going to go on my puppet. I'm going to put the puppet on my hand, I'm going to have a look at it, and I'm going to move the position of the eyes around until I have a placement that I like. And I'm just sort of imagining how it'll look on both sides. I like it there. I'm going to put a little dot right where I liked that eye. Another dot on the other side. Now I'm going to put the puppet back on the jar, and I'm going to sew those eyes on with black thread, and I'm going to use this thread as eyelashes for my puppet. I haven't tied a knot in the back of the thread. I'm going to go through the sock right where I want the eye, and I'm going from the back of his head towards his nose like that, and I'm going to leave a bit of the yarn or thread sticking out. I'm going to sew the star. I'm going to go through the sock again, exactly where I went through the sock just now, pulling that tight. I'll show you how that looks. So the sock is now sewn. There's the end of my thread. I've gone through the bead, through the sock. Now I'm going to come back through the bead again, like that. I'm going to tie the ends of the yarn together into a knot, and then I'm going to trim them the length that I want them. If you don't want eyelashes, you can use the sewing needle to tuck the yarn back inside the sock and hide the ends of the thread. There is my puppet's eyelashes. Find the other dot, sew the other eye on, through the bead, back through the sock again, back through the bead again, tie a knot. You can sew through the bead as many times as you want. I recommend at least twice. The more you sew something, the stronger it is. There is my puppet, the eyelashes. So now I've got the mouth, I've got the eyes, I could be finished. I'm gonna decorate my puppet. This one also has eyelashes. She's got lots of whiskers. I've actually added little bits of yarn, pipe cleaners, ears. I've used marker to color lots of swirls. She's a very pretty puppet. This one, instead of wings, I've given big fancy ears. I made these out of fun foam and colored them with markers. And I used faux fur, and I cut a strip, and then I cut little pieces out of it down his back. I've also done some embroidery with yarn down his belly so that he's got quite a nice throat. And he's got a little goatee on his chin. This one I've also used faux fur, but you can see I've given eyebrows and a little goatee again. Fun foam wings, which I've put little folds in using glue, and then I used the scraps from the wings to make little horns that I've decorated his nose and face with. This one, I've used fabric patches. There's sort of a floral design on there. Little pink cheeks using felt, ears. I used stickers to make the eyelashes. These beads down her back are sewn all with one piece of yarn, and doesn't that look nice? For this one, I used parts from another sock. The ears, they're sewn on pretty much the same way I sewed the eyes on, and they just dangle down like that. And then the back is a long strip of sock, and he's even got a bit of a tail. I'm going to do the nose on my dragon now. I could do pom-poms for the nostrils, but I'm going to cut two shapes out of the fun foam, and I'm going to glue that on. I'm going to cut two teardrop shapes out of fun foam that is black, and then I'm going to cut two smaller similar shapes out of orange, and I'm going to glue the orange into the middle of the black, and then she's going to have fancier nostrils. Put those two parts together. Not too much glue or it'll all squish out the edges. I've got a little bit at the edges. That's okay. Maybe it's not. I'm going to pause myself just briefly there. I won't even take the video down. I'll just keep the sharing up. If you can see my window, I am cutting out pieces for my dragon as I'm listening, and I haven't glued anything on yet. I'm just figuring out where I want things to go. I'm putting it on my hand while I figure that out, and I'm going to use my marker to put dots in the places where I want things. I will then go to my jar, wherever my jar went, put the sock on the jar, and then glue
or sew these pieces where I want them to be. So while I'm talking in the video, just keep working on your dragons and figuring out what parts you want to go. I should soon talk about the way to put little bits on, but you know what? I don't see myself doing it yet. I'm gonna jump to that. So I'm actually gonna take the share down for a second, stopping share, and I'm gonna show you how to hot glue tiny things, because I want to do Google eyes on my dragon. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my camera right down to where I'm going to work here. There we go, and you can see there's my little circles. And where did my bag of Google eyes go? Oh, I don't see my bag of Google eyes. Where did, oh, they fell on the floor. Eyeballs all over the floor. All right. So I'm going to use, nope, those are too big. There, I've got some Google eyes there. Here's the trick for, and this works for the teeth. This would work for any tiny details that you want to glue with the hot glue. You're going to take a little piece of tape. It can be any quality of tape. I've got 2 tapes here. This is my dollar store tape. It is terrible tape. It holds just about nothing. And this is really good hardware store tape. It holds everything very, very well. Doesn't matter which kind of tape you're using for this. This is actually a good way to use up your cheap tape for this. You will take the piece of tape, and it's on my fingers there, and I'm going to stick it to the thing that I am going to glue. I'm now holding the eyeball is stuck onto the tape. Ew, eyeball stuck to tape. How gross. How very Halloween of us. Then I'm holding the tape, and I can use my glue. And I don't need too much glue, a little bit of glue in the thing. I'm sort of shaking it like that to get the spider webs gone. And then I stick the eyeball where I want to glue it. If I was gluing it directly to my sock, I would have my sock on its can or jar, and then I would glue it to that spot on the sock. Let it dry before you peel the tape off, and then very carefully peel the tape off, and I have successfully glued something without burning my fingers at all. So there's a nice trick for you if you want to get working on teeth. So put it on the jar, tape the teeth, and then stick the teeth where you want to go. You may want to put the thing where it's going to go before you glue it, and then make a mark with your marker, or you may just want to do it by eyeball. Both ways are good. But that little tape trick, is a really good way, and you can glue, like this puppet that had the half sequins in his eyes, the little twinkles in his eyes, those are hot glued in. Those are half of a sequin hot glued in using a piece of tape to hold the sequin. So I'm going to resume the video now, and you guys can just work away on your dragons. And now it's going to talk a lot about sort of different things you can try with the videos and so forth. Have much fun with it. If I get a little extra glue at the edge, I can use my scissors, trim the glue off once it's dry. So there's the nostrils. I'm going to decide the nostrils placement. I'm going to put her back on my hand again. See how she's looking, like this. And I think I want those nostrils to be right at the end there. So to do that, I'm going to have to make another little dot, because I'm not going to glue it while I'm wearing it. And I'm going to do a little line so that I know the direction that the nostril has to go in. Now she goes back on the jar again, and see, it looks totally different on the jar than it looked on my hand, which is why I want to do the markings before I put it on the jar. I like to put the glue on the surface of the thing that I am going to glue. I don't like to put the glue on the surface
where I'm going to glue in case I put too much glue there. So there she is so far. I think she needs some wings, some ears, some horns, and I don't know what I'm going to do till I do it. This is part of the fun of a dragon, is you just go with it. And the ideas will change as you make things, as you cut things out, as you see how they work. It's an evolution. So I think that my dragon needs some ears. And I do really like those sort of pointy upwards horse-like ears. So I'm going to give her some of those. And I'm going to make them out of felt. So I'm going to give her 2 colored ears. I'm going to cut that teardrop shape again that I like so much. I am freely cutting the shape, but if you want, you can draw the shape before you cut it. That helps you to follow the lines as you cut. Looks kind of like a leaf. Now I'm going to do the orange one. I'm going to glue the orange into the green, but I could also sew the ears together. With felt, you don't want to use too much glue because the glue will go right through the felt. So I'm putting a thin layer on, and I'm using the nose of the glue gun to smear the glue so that it's a bit thinner and not too thick. So I've now got 2 leaf-shaped ears, and I'm going to fold them at the bottom by pinching that together. Since I have glued them, I have to keep gluing it. If I had sewn the 2 colors together, then I could sew it to the head. But since I've started with glue, putting some glue in there, you can see there's a little bit of glue squishing out the edge. I am going to wait until that's cool, and then I'm going to trim it. And I'm just going to trim it around, and then that makes a nice round bottom, pointy top to the ears. So now I have to decide, do I want them to stick up close together like bunny ears? Oh, I kind of like that. Yeah. I'm going to get my pen. I'm going to see where I want the ear, and I'm going to put a little dot back onto the jar. While she's on the jar, she's got a bit of a moose look to her. So I think she's gonna need horns or antlers. Let's see what I've got. Pipe cleaners. So pipe cleaners can be a little bit tricky to add to sock. Sock is a very loose weave, so you'd think you could just stab the pipe cleaner in it and go through the sock and stab your way out of the sock and have a horn that goes through the sock like that. That would look pretty good. But pipe cleaners are actually 2 wires twisted together. So sometimes the 2 wires want to separate and go on either side of one piece of thread part of the sock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke a bigger hole in the sock, and I'm going to use my awl for this. This is my awl. An awl is a cool tool specifically for stabbing holes. This is a cork to protect the pointy tip. I'm going to use my awl to stab a bigger hole into the sock. And I'm going to go through the sock, and I'm going to come out on the other side. This doesn't guarantee that it's going to be easy to go through with the pipe cleaner. I'm going to twist my 2 pipe cleaners together to make them a bit stronger. If you use dramatically different colors when you twist them, it'll look really good. I'm going to use my needle nose pliers to bend the very tip of the pipe cleaner down and sort of squish it so that the pointies aren't sticking out anymore. They're now bent, and it's not as pointy as it was before. This should also help it to go through my sock. It won't catch on things quite as easily. There's a lot of stuffing in this sock, so I'm having a little trouble getting the pipe cleaner to move through it, but I'm being persistent, I'm being patient, I'm gently wiggling it, and success! I've gotten the pipe cleaner to come out the big hole that I made on the other side. If you had trouble getting it through the holes, this is another way you can use your needle nose pliers, is to reach through the hole, clamp onto the end of the wire, and then pull it with the needle nose pliers through the hole. Tiny, delicate needle nose pliers are really handy for that. So now I've got 2 antlers on my dragon. I could do spirals like that, take a pen or pencil and wrap the pipe cleaner around it to make spiral horns like that. What else do I need? I think this dragon needs some teeth. You can glue teeth into the mouth. These were made with fun foam. I could have used paper or cardstock. These teeth are quite fun. Because I sewed the mouth, that means I can sew the teeth in. If you've glued the mouth, you should glue the teeth in. If you've sewn the mouth, you can glue or sew the teeth in. These ones are beads, and I've sewn the beads in the mouth the same way I sewed the beads down her back. While I've got it on the can, the mouth is nice and open, I'm going to cut out some teeth. I'm going to use fun foam, so I've cut out 10 little teeth. But they are very little, and I don't want to burn myself with the hot glue, so I'm going to use a piece of masking tape. I'm going to stick the masking tape onto the tooth. There's the tooth. I'm holding the masking tape with my fingers, and now put a little dollop of glue, not too much glue, just a tiny bit. Stick that tooth right there in that dragon's mouth. I'm going to peel the masking tape off very slowly and carefully. If I peel the tape off too quickly, then the tooth will come with it, because the glue won't have dried yet. It would be fun to do a whole mouthful of teeth. I might come back and do that. I'm using the same piece of tape to glue each tooth on. This piece of tape will last me till I'm done. There's my puppet's mouth so far. I've used my marker to color in the back of the throat. So there's the mouth. And I want to add a tongue of some sort. I don't really need a tongue, but I like a tongue. I'm going to use some red felt. I think I can do it without the jar. I'm only going to glue the end of the tongue. Put her on now. Get the shape of her right. Pull her down my arm, and there she is so far. I'm going to give a little decoration, little red beads in with red thread along her body. I'm going to put her back onto the jar, and I'm going to start right at her nose and work my way back. So I have decided I don't want a big whisker sticking out the end of her nose. So I'm going to tie my knot, but I'm going to tie a bigger knot, something big enough that it won't come through the sock, and I'm going to go right inside her head. I'm going to hold the sewing needle with my fingers wrapped around it. I'm holding it with my thumb, and my fingers are carefully wrapped around it, and I'm going inside the sock. I'm being very careful, and I can see the point of my pin coming through the sock, and I'm just going to make sure it's centered, and then I can pull that through, and the big knot will keep it from coming all the way through. I have hidden the knot inside the sock. Now that can go back onto the jar, and I'm ready to start putting the beads on. I'm going to string the bead, sew into the sock, go a little bit of distance, and pull tight. So there is the first bead. I'm going to do the next one, and I want to go in a straight line, and I don't want to pull this tight. I want to leave the line loose, because if I pull it tight, it's going to wrinkle up the sock and smush all the beads together. I want a little distance between each bead. I always sew carefully. I'm not worried about going fast. It's not a race, it's an art. Now I've gotten to the back of the head. I'm going to move the head along the jar, and now I can sew the neck. I could go all the way down to the bottom of the sock, and that would be the back of my dragon, but I want to give this dragon wings, so I'm going to stop before I get to the end. So that's my last bead. So to tie this knot, I don't want to pull my yarn tight. I want to make sure that that's loose. And I'm going to go through my yarn, my little loop, through the loop, and I'm going to pull that tight by holding both sides of the yarn. That way I'm not tightening the whole thing as I tie the knot. And I'm going to trim my yarn so I have a bit of a tail. And I'm going to put my needle in its little cork so that I don't lose it. Let's see how he's looking. Oh, I like that. So there's my orange and green and red and gray dragon. I could make two separate wings and glue them on either side of the dragon's body, but I like doing it all as one piece because it's just a little simpler. I have different colors of filing folders. This is what I'm going to make my wings out of. There is the fold of my paper, and I'm going to draw my wings and cut them out with the fold as the part that I'm going to glue to the back. I'm just going to pause as I'm doing that, so hopefully you're all adding
your eyes, ears, wings, any bits and bobs that you want to put on your dragon. How's the video going for everybody? It's not lagging or anything like that? So I'm just going to let the video just keep going. You don't have to be doing the same parts of the dragon that I'm doing in the video. You should be doing whatever it is that you feel like doing. You can also come back to your dragons after all of this is done. If you are like, oh, I've got some filing folder, but it's like on the 10th floor of my house and I don't want to run up all the stairs right now. Not that anybody has a house that big. But anyway, you can come back to things and do them later as well. And I'm using filing folders, but of course I did show some dragons already that had fun foam wings. You could use felt for the wings. The material you use will determine how solid or floppy the wings are. I know a young lady who made wings out of another sock, which was quite kind of fun, and they had floppy wings for her dragon. So, and your dragon doesn't need wings. Maybe it's a sea dragon. Maybe it's a dragon that, like those wonderful Chinese dragons that just soar through the air on airstreams. It's up to you. Maybe it's a dinosaur. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to resume the video now. The video is about 6 minutes to the end of it. So we'll get to the end of the video and then see how all our dragons look. And don't worry if you're not finished. And if you are finished, I don't know, just play with your dragon. Talk to your dragon. Develop its personality.
Wings. And those are going to get glued right there like that. But before I glue them, I am going to decorate them. It's much easier to do this before you glue this onto the dragon. I've colored in my wings and I'm ready to glue them onto the puppet. Where's my jar? Puppet goes back on the jar again. Glue. I'm laying it down on the spine of my puppet. Filing folder wings. This dragon has ear wings. And I've glued them on either side of his face. That's 2 separate pieces and they're made of fun foam. While I have the puppet on the jar, I'm going to add some little circles with my marker to look like scales. To color on the sock, you want to just color in little dabs. You can't do a big solid line because the sock will move around. Socks are stretchy. So what I'm doing is I'm just sort of dotting little circles, and these will look like scales. I am very symmetrical with my dragons, but you don't have to be symmetrical. You definitely want to do this part on the jar. If I was wearing the dragon while I was doing this, the ink would be going through to my arm. So now she's got some spots on her. Let's see how she's looking. So there's my dragon with her wings, her horns, her tongue, her teeth. I think the last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to give her a belly. I'm going to use felt. So I'm going to make a belly for her. I could glue it, but I'm going to sew it because sewing gives me more flexibility. And I want to keep some flexibility there on her chin and throat. Just like it took time to sew there, it's going to take time to sew the belly. So she's back on the jar. I'm checking the shape that I want. Because I'm going to sew this instead of gluing it, I'm going to pin it down so it doesn't move or wiggle around while I'm sewing it. Twist, thread the needle. So I'm going to start at the bottom, and I want the knot to be on the inside of my sock. I'm going to make a bigger knot that won't come through the sock, and I'm going to go through both the sock and the felt, and then I'm going to start doing my whip stitch. If you are working with a friend or family member nearby, make sure you do not stab them with your sewing needle. My thread is getting twisted. I'm just going to untwist it. I hope my thread is long enough to reach. If it's not, I'll tie a knot, get another piece of thread, and keep going. I can take the safety pins out now. I'm going through the sock. I'm going to take the jar out. I'm on the inside of the sock there, and I'm going to tie my knot on the inside. Trim. Oh, very nice. The sewing makes it nice and flexible. I've decided to draw some lines on the belly. So I have added coloring and shading. I think my dragon's done. She's got some little whiskers, she's got ears, she's got horns, she's got wings, she's got a belly, she's got a tongue, she's got teeth, she's got an excellent mouth. So there's my dragon. To make her fly, I can hold the edge of the sock with my other hand and wiggle it as she flies past. Oh, there's another good way to fly. To make her talk, I just drop my thumb, and that makes her talk quite nicely. It keeps the eyes pretty still. She can keep looking at what she's talking to as she's talking. To make her roar, I'm going to raise up my fingers and roar. So to talk, I'm using my thumb, and to roar, I'm using my whole hand. And a little dragon etiquette. I don't want these dragons running around biting everybody. This is very important. This is consent. If your dragon wants to chomp on somebody, they need to ask permission and get permission first, especially little fingers. Don't ever bite noses. Don't put your sock puppets too close to your face, unless it's maybe to give a little kiss on the nose. Likewise, before you touch the dragon, make sure you either ask the dragon for permission or ask the puppeteer for permission, and get consent before you touch the puppet. Definitely ask permission before you try to stick your fingers into any puppet's mouths. Some puppets don't like that. And it's very important to make sure that you are respectful of your puppet, of your puppeteer, and the puppet is respectful of the audience. I hope you've had lots of fun. I hope you've had a chance to make a sock puppet, or this has given you some ideas to make a sock puppet. And I'm going to encourage you to send pictures of your sock puppet to me. If you could send pictures of your sock puppet to me, that would be very awesome. Thank you for visiting my studio and making sock dragons with me. Very last thing after you've made your sock puppet dragon is cleaning up the mess. It's important to put your sewing needle away safely and unplug your hot glue gun. Now I can clean up all the mess. And there we have it. So we are right in the last 10 minutes of the workshop. And we have a little overtime. So if anybody wants to stay and keep working a little longer, or ask me any questions, or you can ask me questions about other puppets or see any of these guys specifically. I've got a polar bear and a cat. I've got some different animals. That is very welcome. But what I would like to do now is, everyone who is willing to turn your camera on, I would love to see your puppets. And what I want to do is have everybody hold up your puppet and look at the camera. And what I'm going to do is take a picture. So this will be like a dragon portrait. And maybe dragons probably don't say cheese because, well, I don't know, they might say cheese. But I'd like, let's see, how can I hold my phone? There we go.
I usually, and this is a map.
Oh, I hear somebody's voice. Excellent.
So let's all have our dragons. You can unmute yourself if you want for this part, and we're going to have all the dragons roar together. All right? So I'm going to count them down if everybody's unmuted, and we're going to go 3, 2, get your dragons ready. 1. Nice big roar. Show off your teeth. Very cool. So does anyone want to show off any special things that they did to their dragon? Like I know Patty's got the tongue that goes in and out. Does anyone else have anything particularly nifty they want to show off?
The tongue fell in.
Oh, she has a dog.
I like the fun fur tongue.
Oh, it kind of looks like fire because it's got more texture to it.
I need advice on the eyes. My eyes.
Okay.
They're on little sticks that I stuck through the sock, so I need to be able to attach them. So,
Hot glue?
I don't have hot glue.
You don't have hot glue. Okay, what type of stick is it?
It's just a very thin stick that the beads are on. So.
Oh, with a bead on it.
Yeah.
That might be something for when I come and visit you.
Okay.
I could bring my hot glue gun. I know you have a hot glue gun there somewhere.
I couldn't find it. I just used what I could find.
Yeah.
The furry body for this guy is actually the little fire buckets that the hospitals give you. And I stuck the cord on. It works.
It works.
Yeah.
If you don't have hot glue, something you could try, because you got all the time in the world now, is put the dragon on your jar or can. Make sure that the eyes are the placement that you want them, and then use white glue or other types of glue.
I've tried white glue, but they keep falling off.
No, it won't dry. You have to leave it overnight.
Okay.
With the white glue, with the make sure the eye is where it's supposed to be. Otherwise, it'll slide off.
Okay. I had to use staples for my teeth.
Oh yes. Oh, you asked me about that before. Yes, you can actually staple things together too.
I stapled my teeth.
I went to a music festival once, and I didn't know I was supposed to do a sock puppet workshop. Nobody told me. And I arrived there, and it was in the program, sock puppet workshop. And I went, oh, that's cool. I wish I could participate in that, but I'm here in my booth. And then I sort of went, wait a second. I think they asked something about that when I signed up for the music festival. And then I went to the music festival, and sure enough, sock puppet workshop, hosted by me, who doesn't even know I'm doing it. And the artisan coordinator ran out and bought a big bag of socks, and a couple other artists loaned me hot glue guns and pieces of felt, and somebody had a big jar of Google eyes, and we all came together and just had sort of that stone soup. It was like a stone soup of craft materials, and we did the workshop. And because I didn't have enough sewing, I had a few sewing needles because I travel with sewing needles, but I didn't have enough for everybody. There was about, I think there was 8 people in the workshop, and I think I only had 3 or 4 sewing needles. But we used my clothing tagging gun, and it's got these little you shoot it through to put the price tags on things. So we used my tagging gun to sew the sock puppets together. Yeah. So if anybody can see the chat, I'm going to read what Figment just wrote. So this is from one of our hosts with Figment. Figment Toronto would like to thank me and her How to Make a Dragon Puppet for this fun workshop. And thank you to our participants as well for joining us today. We hope you had a wonderful time, and we'll share pictures of your puppets with us on our Facebook page. So if you're on Facebook, just type in Figment Toronto. Even if you type in Figment, you'll be able to find it. And yeah, totally go there, take pictures. If you want to take a picture and it's really awkward if you're by yourself to hold the camera, click, and like pose the puppet if you don't have like really fancy wrists, you can put your puppet on your jar like that, and then you can actually set the jar maybe on a rock or something. If you've got like a nice fancy backyard, you could have a dragon setting and set your dragon up and then take a nice picture, and that would look very cool. Or get a friend to either wear the puppet while you take a picture, or you wear the puppet and get them to take a picture. That works too. But yeah, I would love to see everybody's dragon puppets. Did anyone, do you feel that your puppet is completely finished? Put your hand up. No? If you're still working on your puppet, if you're going to keep working on your puppet, hold your puppet up. If you're going to keep doing stuff. Fantastic. But my puppet wound up being very, very bare bones. And I covered, if you remember, there was the hole in my sock. I covered it up with a nostril. Oh, and I gave him teeth.
Yes, lots of fun. I think my I can looking at it.
Victoria, are those teeth that I see?
Sorry, let me unmute. Yes, they are. They are fangs.
Oh, it looks fantastic.
This is fun foam. I made the palette out of foam. But I also have the teeth just hanging down.
I like that because they do have the overbite.
My puppet at all. I did not sew. I did not glue. Everything is held in place by willpower and Scotch tape.
Oh wow!
So it's not a very stable puppet, but it's a good proof of concept. If anything else, this way I can move things around as I need to. Determine, the eyes are too close together or too far apart. The nostrils are in the wrong spot. I can pick them up and move them, and then once I'm happy with how it looks, then I can actually sew everything into place permanently.
That's a really good way to do it, and because then you get to see, like I usually only put like a piece at a time, and then and I see how it's going to go, and I move it around, and then I glue it down. But if you do like the whole puppet, then you sort of realize, yes, this needs to be wider, this needs to be narrower. I like that. I would recommend, if you've got any of the quality masking tape, that's a bit stronger and just as removable and placeable as Scotch tape. Scotch tape, it will lose its stickiness a little sooner.
It will, yeah.
And I've done stuff with packing tape. Packing tape's great.